Hey guys, welcome to 180 Not So Brief. This is a recap of 2 weeks ago. I told you about a buddy of mine in elementary school named Marcus Hubbard. And after that night, I found him and we connected and probably spent 4 hours or more on the phone just catching up with each other's lives. And that was pretty cool. At first, I wasn't going to tell him about the video I made or the issues that I was dealing with over the years, but something he said made me say, well, funny you mentioned that. And we had a dialogue, and at one point, I gave him the link to the video for 180 Briefs. He watched it and made the mention of would like to give his perspective on it. And a bunch of you said, yeah, I'd like to see that, and so did I. So he made a video, and I included the first half of my part of the video. So if you didn't get to see the original, you can have it in context and then understand where Marcus is coming from in his side of it. So I hope you enjoy. If you know what I said by heart and really don't want to sit through all of me, you can skip to 15 minutes and 20 seconds, but keep it in context. You might want to listen to me babble once again. Sorry about that. So anyway, enjoy. I hope you get something out of this. It was really fun connecting with Marcus and getting to know him again. So see you guys later. Love you. Bye. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of 180 Briefs. February 6, 1972, my mom had this gorgeous new baby. But anyway, roughly around that time, her doctor gave her a book, kind of like what to expect, how to, babies 101 type book. And then in the book, there was a picture that she really loved. And she thought it was cute, and she cut it out, and she put it on a wooden plaque, if you will, and she glued it, or whatever the proper term it is for that, on there. And the picture was two naked babies facing each other. One was a white baby, and one was a black baby. And she thought it was cute, and she hung it up in wherever we lived. She hung it up in our apartment when I was little, and then when we moved to our home in Hickory Hills, it was always in the bathroom, and so I grew up with that picture. Back when I was in the apartment, the complex was kind of very mixed, but I was probably more towards the minority side. I could be wrong, but it seemed like it was that way. And my next door neighbors were a mixed couple. Mary was from Ghana, Africa, and Stan was from the United States. And they were a mixed couple. I didn't know any different. She was practically like a godmother. We had our apartments were next to each other at one point, and on the balcony you had a divider, and the bottom of the divider you had like a 2-foot gap or whatever, and I used to sneak under there, crawl under there, knock on her window. She would let me in, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. I would lay on her couch, and she would give me the little Keebler Elves fudge striped cookies, and I loved those. And she would play her music from Africa in the background, and she had these carvings all over the place of giraffes and rhinos and whatever. And that is what I knew. When I moved to the subdivision that my mom still lives in, it was probably 99%, if not more, white. You had some Puerto Rican, you had some Indian. Everybody else, I think, was all white. So it was different. It was a different atmosphere that I was used to. Uh, Middle school and junior high, I had a friend named Marcus Hubbard. And he doesn't really know this story. In fact, I kind of reached out to him recently just to tell him about this story that I'm kind of embarrassed to share. And what that was he lived in the old apartment complex. I mean, I didn't know him when I was little, but once I started going to with him to school, I used to drive. No, I didn't drive. I'd get off the bus with him, and we would walk from his apartment complex to my house by car. That's like 5 minutes at most. But as a little kid or middle school, that seemed like a nice walk. So we would come, and the way our subdivision is my mom's house and that whole block is up higher, and it's right across the street from the forest preserve. But if you were to go in my backyard, you would look down the hill into what we called the valley. And when I say valley, it's like a 20 feet difference. It's not like, oh, down in the valley. But anyway, so we would, as we were coming from the apartment complex, we'd walk through there. And there would be kids out, and they would see me, and me and Marcus would go, and we'd meet other buddies of mine, and we'd play, and we had an army club, and we used to do all that fun stuff, and go play guns and hide and go seek and whatever else. What Marcus didn't know, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say, is that I used to get picked on and beat up because of bringing Marcus into my subdivision, through the subdivision. And it started getting bad enough where I was getting picked on, beat up, sworn at, whatever, that instead of cutting through the subdivision and then going up the hill to my house, we'd go up the street to the forest preserve, walk through the forest preserve, and swing back around and come to my house. And he always was like, "Why are we going this way?" And I said, "Well, because it's fun, hiking through the woods." He didn't know I was lying because I didn't want certain people to see me because I was going to get my butt kicked. And they would tell me, "Don't ever bring him again. He's not one of us." And I'm like, whatever that means. Because, like I said, I grew up used to together, black and white. No big deal. And I started learning words that we all hate. And those words, I never realized that was a word bad towards someone who was black. I just assumed, because of the way it was used half of the time that I heard, I thought that was what a black person would call another black person, like someone might use the A word. I didn't realize it had to do anything to do with color. I just thought it was just another word for something else. And that was, middle school stupidity, ignorance, if you will. And I didn't know. And then I remember going to, back then, Hinsdale Junior Academy, where we are so diverse. You have anybody and everybody. It's a rainbow of colors. And to me, that's awesome. I've always loved the multicultural environment. And when Heather and I got married, we used to live in Westmont, but then we moved to Bolingbrook. And I loved that I could look out the window and be like, this neighbor is African American, this neighbor Hispanic, this neighbor's Chinese, or whatever. And that has always excited me. So it kind of bothered me as I started thinking about more recently. I've been thinking about this for years, and it's bugged me for years, and I've lost track with Marcus, so I've never been able to tell him what we were going through as kids. And now recently, with everything that's going on, and I shouldn't say recently everything that's going on because it's been going on way too long, and it's still going on. It's just that right now things have exploded between stuff that happened in Minneapolis and whatnot. It's always been there. It's just we have another flare-up that someone had to die for everyone to get angry. And so I started thinking about Marcus and I started thinking about how embarrassed I was that I didn't I'm getting beat up and yelled at. I should have told him about it. I should have stood my ground more instead of just avoiding the issue. And I'm pretty sure it was a selfish act. I was probably doing it more for me because I didn't want to get beat up or yelled at or whatever, or chased down the street when I was by myself. It wasn't protecting him. I mean, in one way I kind of felt like I was, but in another way, Marcus probably could have beat them all up, so it probably would have been, stupid. But with everything that's currently flaring up, and when we get to heaven, it's going to be like what I think of as Bolingbrook was, and where I grew up, where you've got all these different races sitting together, and we're all going to be like, we're all one race. And we're not going to have this stupid, well, he's different because he's got a better tan than I do. But we need to stand up for each other. Whether it's because they have a better tan, whether it's because they have a different religious background, whether it's even the fact that they don't even believe, not the way I believe as far as in God, but they serve a different God. God has told us Christians to love. And if we're not standing up for each other, Marcus was a close friend at the time. And I should have stood up and said more things. There's a scene in a movie, it's called A Knight's Tale. And there's a scene where this is a guy who he grew up serving a knight. And they, carried all the equipment, went from place to place for jousting. And the guy drops dead. And he says, I'll take over. I've always wanted to be a knight. Even though I'm not from royalty, I've always wanted to be a knight. And he tells his buddies about this, and they decide to, okay, let's go along with it, but when we get caught, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So he does this. The movie goes on where he's jousting and all this. And then to the point where he gets busted. They find out that he's not from royal blood and all of this. And he gets arrested, and he gets put into the shackles, and he's hanging in the town center, and everybody's throwing things at him and cussing at him and punching him if they can get close. Then his friends stop, and they get in front of him with their fists ready to fight whoever comes because they love him. They know what he's done. They love him anyway, and they're there for him because that's their friend. It gets to a point where there's a prince who knows the story. He knows what's happened. He knows that this is other than that, this guy's an honorable guy, that there was a time where he was fighting him unknown because it was all about competition, and he wanted to be involved. So he reveals himself, and everybody backs away because, here's the prince, you got royalty here. And he approaches him and says something to the fact that the loyalty of your friends standing by your side, if nothing else was I to judge about your character, that alone shows me who you are. And then he says a bunch of other stuff. And then he decides to tell the world, because his word is law. And he says that my people looked and found out that he comes from a long line of royalty, and I am now going to make him a knight. And he makes him a knight. And happily ever after is the movie. But the part that I'm looking at is the friend standing up for the friend. Regardless of what happened, he stood up. And then if you've been watching the coverage of the riots and protests and all that, you might have seen a picture where a cop who was part of the, he's in his riot gear or whatever, and he, for some reason, got separated from the rest of the police. So he's in the middle of all the protesters, and things can easily go bad. Someone gets upset, they see him, he's a white cop, they can jump him, whatever, and he's surrounded. You're talking thousands of people. A bunch of protesters surround him, lock arms in arms, and protect him. And these are black gentlemen who are protecting the white cop who they're angry at. And that's the attitude we should have. Stand by your fellow man. Don't care the color. Don't care about their religious beliefs. Don't care about their political views. Don't care about whatever. Christ said, love. It's the most important command is love. So as you go throughout this week, through all this chaos, just what we needed, one more thing. And not that this is new or anything, but just love. Find the time to love. Be angry. Stand up. Don't sit on the sidelines. We can't. It is wrong, and we need to stand up for each other.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I am Marcus Hubbard. Um, I was referenced in a video Stephen Hoffman broadcast a couple weeks ago, and I haven't talked to him in years. Many years. I'm talking junior high school. Um, which for me is many years ago, seeing how I'm 48 years old. But we hadn't talked in years, and he actually reached out to me social media, and we had a conversation. And during that conversation, I had made a joke, and he said, "It's funny you should bring that up." He said, "Because." He told me the story about the video he made, and he told me about the content. Now, not, and I commented, said, "Yeah, I'm that kid," and I said something along the lines of, "When I'm gonna get to tell, my side of the story," and I didn't mean that as like a anything Stephen was saying was not true or. Uh, Anything like that, but I thought it's pretty cool because sometimes you hear these types of stories and see these types of things, and a lot of times it has to do with the fact that the person that's doing the talking or the video hasn't been in touch with that other person, and it's like I always I'm a big into films and stuff and books and comic books and so on and so forth. So I do like other perspectives and outlines and backstories and such. So that's basically it's just like, hey, it was good to talk to this dude after probably have to talk to him since honestly somewhere around '86. And it was good to talk to him, and then he told me this, and we conversated about it, and it was quite a few things that he said that hit me a certain way. He was saying things like he should have stood up for me. He should have been honest with me, or not been ashamed or embarrassed or whatever, what have you. And what I was saying to him was like, first of all, we were dealing with a child's mentality. Um, we were dealing things from a perspective of children, and so that's like my big point. And also like the very fact that even though he was going through what he was going through, he never stopped bringing me to his house to play and hang out and everything. And like you said, we used to play Army, and I have to be totally honest. I think I'm pretty sure, not that I think, I'm convinced that Steven was my first play Army friend. Uh, like of course I've had sessions and toys and stuff, and we played Army or kind of stuff. But I mean, let's be honest. Like, and I'm not trying to put nothing out there, but let's be honest. Uh, the era I was growing up in, and the area I was growing up in, black kids was into kung fu. We loved kung fu movies. Bruce Lee movies. On the UHF channels, they used to have like Samurai Sunday on like two different channels, and sometimes they would overlap. And my cousins and I would take like a small portable TV and bring it out in the living room next to the great big 27-inch TV, and we would simultaneously, like, we was like picturing, before there was a technology, and whichever movie seemed to get good or have the best scene, we turn the channel and flip that to on the big screen. But and back then white kids played Army, so it was like a whole different aspect to playing Army with this kid, because like he mentioned, there was like a like a like a forest preserve tree line like in this neighborhood. And so he said it was kind of a little hike, not by any means anything, but he said, but for a kid going from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, um, it was just it was a walk, and go over there, and I remember his mom very distinctly, just a very kind, naturally kind, loving person, and she treated any kid that I noticed that came over there, just naturally as kids should be treated. So yes, so we would have these battles, and because like when I was like call myself playing Army, it was just like go out there and almost just basically kind of hide and seek, and do you blast, make your noise, or if the gun made noise, and this, that, and the other. But like this kid Steve Hoffman, he had like strategies and like terminology. I don't know if any of the terms he used back then was real, but it was real enough to me, man, because like at that time we didn't even have like the G.I. Joe cartoon wasn't even out yet. So if we was doing anything imitating war stuff, it was off of TV movies and TV shows, stuff like that. But yeah, so it was funny, like I said, because like this kid, like he had like military gear, he had like camouflage jackets, like before Wu-Tang was wearing them, and I remember he had like a authentic helmet and stuff like that, and I said, so it like intrigued me, like I said, because this is like, man, is your dad in the Army? Like he a general or something, because he had all this, like I said, like terminology and material and stuff like that. But yeah, so like some of the things I'm going to talk about was, when we talked, and then I did see the video, and he seems like, he seems like he did me wrong by not telling me he was getting bullied because of hanging with me. And he referenced, I don't remember if it was on the phone or in the video, how he should have protected me better. And it's like, I'm thinking, I was like, what better way to protect and like protect our friendship than to not even, bring it up that it was a problem. Because honestly, I wasn't having the problem. It was strictly on him, and he still chose. Even though I can definitely remember, and like me, like, why we gotta go this way? Why we going? Because he said something to me before he got to, when we were talking on the phone, when he said that, if you notice, we started taking like a longer route to my house, going to the forest preserves, um, and he said, like, I would be like, why we gotta go this way? Why we gotta go this way? Like, and I said to him, I was like, yeah, you used to take us through the mud, and not like it was like a swamp or nothing, but if it was kind of rain, it'd be a little bit muddy back there, not even up to the top of the soles of your shoes, but I would be like, man, why we gotta go all the way this way? Why I was like, man, it's fun, it's an adventure, it's army. We're he used some kind of army term he probably made up. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, you probably made all that stuff up, man. I look at you differently now. I think after having a military career myself and stuff, man, I don't think you knew as much as you led me to believe that you knew, and yeah, I'm feeling a certain kind of way about that now. No, but I just want to reiterate the fact that the steps that he took to make sure that him and I still were able to play together and have those type of days and games and stuff, and he was carrying the stress all those times I was over there of, what if one of these other neighborhood kids see us together? And of course, anybody that deals in bullying and scare tactics and the ignorance of racism and stuff, mostly they're cowards anyway, and they wouldn't have said anything to me or near me, anything, um, but they did. They picked on him from what he's telling me, and I don't doubt it. I mean, and when we were talking, I was like, and those kids, and those kids might be great people right now. Because as we were talking about it, I was thinking about, like, I was never a bully, or nothing, but I know there was like a few times I could think of in my childhood where I did something as a kid, and then as I got older, I was like, why did I do that, or why did I say that to him, or or tease somebody, or and even though I didn't have a mean intention or nothing, but kids are kids. They still are. Kids still do kid things. It's just that, like, the way we view it now has changed so much. But I guess my main point is just that kid that young, because when we were doing that, he mentioned, like, junior high school. I might have a little bit of. I think the time frame was more when we were doing that hardcore army stuff. I want to say that was more or less probably more around fourth grade. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, we had a friendship, through elementary school, until he attended different schools once we got a little older, and that's kind of how we, just kind of fell out of touch. But yeah, I just want to say, like, the level of love that he displayed, even though it didn't feel like love to him, for him to never even let these bullies jeopardize the friendship that we had together. And it makes me feel that much better that he was able to reach out to me and make a connection. And I'm thankful for that. Um, I've always, and as I got older, I realized, one of the greatest blessings that the Lord has ever given me is I've always had great friends um, in my life, great-hearted friends, family, you know, so forth in my life. No matter what, there was always good people in my life, and and as far back as I can go, because like my very best friend, we had met in second grade, and him and I are still best friends. Um, he moved from the Chicago area to the Dallas area, um, 5, 6 years ago, something like that. And we're still in touch very heavily. His mom and dad called me their son. My mom and dad did the same thing, and we called each other's parents. And what's funny is, he has kids, I have kids, and my kids only know his kids as their cousins. That's and vice versa. They're it's cousins. We're that close a family. But at the same time, like I said, Steve and I met. I can't remember when it was. Like he said, he used to live in the apartment complex that I lived in. And then I didn't meet him until he moved into the subdivision. So it's been a long time, and I'm so grateful, and I appreciate everybody listening to my perspective. And basically, to sum it all up, is I don't know how that boy back then could have displayed uh, a more loving, pure, you know, uh, love for somebody in his life at that such a young age. And, we got grown ups won't do that now. So, thanks everybody for listening. Again, I'm Marcus Hubbard, like old Mother Hubbard, and thanks Stephen for reaching out and continuing to be a friend to me. And thanks guys, and hope everybody's doing well and staying safe and being healthy. And God bless y'all. Thank you so much.